All right, let's get Facebook up in here. Ooh, super chat off the bat. Heck yeah. All right, there's both of our check marks. Scott's getting his coffee ready. We're letting it breathe for a second, and we are off. Welcome in, welcome in. It is Tuesday morning, September 27th. Man, September is almost over, and it's time for an episode of Broncos for Breakfast. I am Nick Kendell, not going solo today, joined once again by Scott Kennedy, who has returned home from his trip to Denver football mecca, obviously, for the Mile High Huddle meet and greet. Scott, welcome back. Good to have you. And I'm going to take a sip of coffee because yesterday I was not afforded the opportunity as much.
Yeah, every once in a while, I've told Thomas when you're going solo, I'm like, every once in a while, just take a breath, wet the pipe a little bit, rinse it down a little bit, else you'll start choking on it. But how do you like my new background for my green screen? That's my picture. That's how good our seats were. That Dale D-Dub. So again, thank you to our friend in Hawaii who came over and took Chad and I as guests to the game. So it was a blast. Nick, we missed you. We had a good time at the meet and greet. Lots of familiar faces in here. Got to meet some new people. So had a great time. Went to sleep immediately after the podcast last night and went about 9 hours. Feeling good today. I'm ready to go.
Good stuff. And you know who's got me feeling good right now off the bat? Jason Walton coming in with the $5 super over on YouTube, saying that disappointed that Eli decided to join in our national media Rustlander. Just hope when he gets going, the praise is as loud as the disrespect. I think it's going to take a bit for the praise to get back around. He's going to have to prove it. But luckily for Russell Wilson fans and Bronco fans out there, there have been a number of quarterbacks over recent years that the media tried to write the obituary on that came storming back. You know, it's almost Halloween. It's zombie season. Maybe we'll have zombie Russell Wilson coming here soon. But Peyton Manning was washed. Obviously, not the case. Came back. Aaron Rodgers after that Anthony Barr shoulder injury. Oh my gosh, he's not the same. He's broken. Okay, back-to-back. They draft a quarterback even in the first round. Then back-to-back MVP seasons. And Tom Brady, last season and a half in New England. Oh man, Tom's getting old. It's going to happen eventually. Patriots let him go to Tampa Bay. Looks pretty damn good again. So obviously it's not the end for Russell Wilson. And also I saw the joke about Eli Manning. He said the Broncos should have paid the punter $245 million. Just a clever quip. I don't think he's truly crapping on Wilson like we've seen some other people do on the media side.
Yeah, but Waitman was one of my heroes of the game. I mean, that's not a hot take again. So when I come in here, it's like, well, everybody said that, Scott. I don't listen to everybody, so I don't know what else everybody else is saying. I'm not listening to 50 Broncos beat writers, and I don't listen to Eli Manning. I don't listen to them. I watch us, and then I learn, and I listen to y'all, and I listen to our folks on Mile High Huddle. But Waitman was spectacular. It was 10 for 46-7, 10 punts. God, that's a lot. But 6 inside, the ones that were short. And it wasn't just like pooch kicks. He was dropping in nice wedge shots that were biting and spinning back from 45, 50 yards out inside the 10 consistently. And you don't win that game without him. There's in editorial and newsrooms, they like to write gotcha titles. They like to accuse bloggers and stuff of, the clickbait stuff. But no, it's everywhere. I remember when I was working at Fox one time, Nadal and who's the other one? Federer this is like 2008. This is how long ago this was. And Federer loses a match. Maybe it was like his second in a row. And someone writes the title, is this the end? The beginning of the end for him. I'm like, oh, all right, whoever wrote this title, we're going to bet a year's salary wins, at least another major. So they do that. It's just kind of what they do is, this is the end. They want to try and predict the demise. It's good for clicks and it's good for the schadenfreudism of other fans. So everybody else who's rooting against Denver wants to click on that headline.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. And, a lot of people, even though Denver's been bad for a few years, the years of dominance, John Elway, kind of saying he won't play for, was it the Baltimore Colts then, Indy Colts, and then going to Denver. Denver didn't earn John Elway with the first pick. They got him. Same thing with John Elway. Oh, they cheated. Some people also, that was the 98-99 season with Pat Bowlen. And the salary cap stuff going on there. So there's a lot of animosity towards Denver and Russell Wilson as well. So it doesn't matter. It's weird that the Chiefs have escaped it so far, considering it seems like more or less considering how much issues they've had with some personalities there on that team. But I digress. $4.99 coming in from Ryan Slavic saying our defense is top tier. We need to run more, do play action, and let Russell roll out and throw. That is what he does best. It's what he did best. Scott, let's just get right into it. I do want to say hello to some people, but we got a nice $4.99 super coming in from Ryan first. But you were at the game, obviously. Was the offense as inept as it appeared on television, or was that just a hat tip, take a bow performance by the San Francisco defense and DeMarco Ryans, the defense?
It's a combination of both, but it was worse live, Nick. It was worse in person than it was on, because I rewatched the game and maybe it was just, I knew what to expect. Yeah. And my second viewing, it's never, as high and low as your first one.
Yeah.
But, as you're watching this, Ryan, you're talking about running, bootlegs and stuff. He's in the shotgun most of the time. Those are RPOs. Those aren't necessarily, a rollout where you do that out of the shotgun where you're taking your drop. He's already in his drop. When you're under center, you drop back the hand and then you bootleg around. When you're in the shotgun and there's a guy standing right next to you, it's just a straight handoff. And then it's either off, if you're going to run, which most quarterbacks in this league aren't, thank goodness, then it's off tackle. It's not a bootleg. So when you're in the shotgun, he's not going to boot. There's problem one. Problem two is that interior line. It wasn't just the interior. They're not just hemming him into the pocket. They're collapsing the pocket. That defensive line was crushing the pocket. Russell Wilson, who is not blessed with height and a huge throwing lane over the top, had guys in his face and around him immediately. I'm talking off the snap. Yes, you want to take, you watch guys work on their pass sets. They kind of kick back, block, and go back 3 steps and set. They were forgetting to set. They might go back 2 steps, but then they were getting knocked back 3 more, and they were in Russell Wilson's lap. So it was a tough go of it trying to pass out of the pocket, and you can't roll them out because you're in shotgun all the time. So I agree with you on the whole, Ryan, but it's going to require a major change in the offensive philosophy.
And I think that the heavy shotgun approach is as much Nathaniel Hackett as it is Russell Wilson, if not more so Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson wants to be, let's just call it out. He wants to be Drew Brees. He wants to be that quarterback that's shotgun throwing it 60 times a game, and hasn't been his career to date, but that's what it seems like so far. Running it, or what was it, the 3rd down sack where they took him out of field goal range? Shotgun empty set. Are you kidding me? But I think that's a heavy Russell Wilson influence on that play as much as Hackett as well.
Well, and we also see it. I think it takes away from Javonte Williams a little bit. I want to see him being a downhill runner, not standing next to the quarterback and then getting it on a read where he basically has to restart his feet while the defense already has 2 steps in motion on him. So I think it hurts Javonte Williams. We're in that single back look, shotgun look. And you understand why, okay, I might want a little bit more of a scat back type, a quicker back type in that case. But, I want Javonte to be able to run downhill. And it seems like the only time they're trying to do that, not the only time, this is an exaggeration, but they're swinging out screen passes to him. And then he's catching and stopping. It's not where he's one of those where he's catching it on the fly. Sometimes a perfect screen pass is a real deep drop. He swings out and he's moving forward and he meets the ball that's running perpendicular to the sidelines, and you run onto it, and then you're freaking dangerous. Yeah. He's catching, turning, starting again, and you're not getting the best out of Javonte that way.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And we'll keep digging into the offense and the defense here with the theme of today's show. But I want to say hello to some people in the chat. Michaela Israel saying, good morning, Broncos country. How's it going, guys? And good afternoon to Ethan, who comes in and says, good afternoon, Jensen, Broncos country. Jeremy Sean's in the house. Good morning. The band is back together. Yes, we are. Here we are. Diamond Rattler. What's up, guys? Let's go, I think is what it is there. And we got Coach Chris coming in. Coach Chris came in and supported yesterday while I was riding solo. So appreciate you, Coach, saying, let them hate. Good morning, Nick and Scott. Just think we're trying to be too cute on offense. Just need to let the playmakers play football, shorten the routes, and balance the attack. Hashtag MHH rules. Hashtag Denver Broncos for life. Did you get the impression that the plays themselves were too drawn out last week? And maybe that's just an impact of the offensive line struggling against a 49ers team. What did you see from the design aspect?
For me, I won't necessarily design. Just to go on to Coach Chris's point, and Coach Chris, thank you so much for coming in orange, matching that gorgeous background behind me today. It's just, it almost looks like they're taking too long to develop. So so I'm not going to say design so much as timing on this one, where, at first glance, it looked like Garrett Bowles had a nightmare. Then you'd see, and he didn't have his best game, but then you'd watch a replay and Russ is going back, 5-step drop, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, set, 1, 2. That ball's got to be out.
Yes, it
has to be out at that point.
Yep.
And or you're moving. So I saw Bowles give up 2 sacks, and to his credit, Bowles is probably turns around and he's thinking, Jesus Christ, that's what I'm thinking is get rid of the ball. You've got to get rid of the ball in that point, because the lanes weren't necessarily open up in front of you, because again your pocket's coming down on top of you. So for me on the offense, I'd like to see some, again, it's hard to say 3-step drops, but quick slants. A bubble screen to the wide side. Let's get some of these guys. That'd be a perfect way to use Montreal Washington. Not necessarily Kendall Hinton just yet, but Montreal Washington. Get him involved that way with a quick bubble screen and let him go. But you've got to. I think some quick hitters will do some good for this team. So timing as much as design, which is probably the same thing. I don't want to say design because I didn't watch all of the routes. Maybe it was there. I don't know. What I know is the timing is taking too long.
Yeah. And we got Crimson Wolf coming in saying that win was like having an ugly girlfriend. She's not the hottest, but at least you got her. That was a good team, and you don't need to apologize for wins in the NFL unless it's against like the Houston Texans or something. Then, that's why the fans are a little bit more bitter last week. But this week just feels good to be 2-1. It's also a little bit nice, I guess, cherry on top to have the entire AFC West lose around you, where you game a game and everybody. Also, the Raiders, the only winless team in football. Gotta love it. Jacob Foster coming in, the silent one. Good morning to you, Jacob. Hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for the support. We got John.
Wait, hold on 1 second. One second on this one. Okay. Jacob coming in. Jacob was at the meet and greet, Nick.
Oh, he was? Does he talk?
He was kind of standing there by himself. And I was like, all right, I'm kind of a host here. I don't want to see somebody standing there by themselves. So I went and said, hey, I'm Scott. And he says, I'm Jacob. And I was like, naturally. Of course you are. But Jacob, you ghosted. I think I went and threw something away and you were gone. So I was hoping your trip went well, hoping you had a good time at the game, and it was a pleasure meeting you, and thanks for being a big part of the show.
Awesome. That's so cool. Good to hear from you. Good to hear from you, Jacob. He's not the silent one anymore. He's introduced himself. John Mezapel saying, morning, everyone. Big win. Yes, it was definitely a big win. Bama X in the house. Oops, sorry about that, Scott. Good morning.
Okay, I want to get to Gary, too. Gary, it was a pleasure meeting Gary. Gary's a trooper, rock star there. We all want to be Gary Leeds Palmer when we grow up. So good morning, Nick and Scott. I got back last night. Well, glad you made it safe. My first live show. Thanks for being there, guys. Go Broncos. Well, I think you're undefeated then too, Gary. So you got to see the meet and greets 2-0. And Nick, I'm undefeated, dude. I am undefeated for Broncos country. I'm gonna be the favorite here.
I think it's already happened.
Nick's gonna be like persona non grata. Get him out of here.
Yeah, boo.
Send him to the Chiefs game.
0-8, baby. Woo. Mandego Dan coming in saying, let's do this thing. I'm hungry for answers and breakfast with the fam. Good to see you, Mandego Dan. Facebook user. Good morning, gents. Good to see a Facebook user, whoever you may be. Dylan Von Arks. Sup, Broncos country. Make sure you guys hit that like button on the way in and subscribe if you haven't already. Albert Knopper's in here. Good morning to you, too, in Broncos country. We also got Chase Wellner in the house. Found it funny talking about the Eli Manning thing, I'm sure. EJ's in the house, too. Good morning, Nick and Scott in Broncos country. Jake Gerard. Hey, guys. Did we use up all the screen passes in the first game? Because I haven't seen a lot since then. Yeah, I'm not sure. They really kind of took away from not only the usage of the running backs in the screen game, but also the tight ends. Tight ends, well, has kind of dried up as well. And, I mean, that's probably somewhat due to talent of the tight end position. Let's just be completely honest. I saw a stat somebody posted out the other day. I don't know who it was, but that I think it was Mike Clay, actually, that said that every single time Albert Okwuegbunam was on the field against the 49ers, it was a pass play. Every single one. So what a tell. God, that's terrible. But something that tight end position, hopefully you have Greg Dulcich coming back soon, but missing as much time as he did, you don't even know if he's going to do anything. The rest of the guys
Nick, I say the same thing about Billy Turner.
Yeah.
I say the same thing about Billy Turner, where it's like, okay, yeah, we're counting on these guys to come in and contribute, but one, we don't know really anything about them in this offense. This isn't someone coming back. We know what we're going to get from Justin Simmons. When Justin Simmons comes back, if he's healthy, we feel pretty good, plug and play. Mm-hmm. But Dulcich and Turner, maybe, could be like a new signing, could be, but we don't know for sure. So, it would be smart to hedge on those just a little bit.
Yeah. Absolutely. We got Brad D. Good morning, all. Better late than never. Hopefully, you're talking about yourself, not us, but we'll see. Colin Wood coming in said, I read some of that short quarterbacks like Russ, Kyler Murray, and Drew Brees have a hard time playing in this type of system. I'm not sure. I don't know if the sample size is big enough and the specifics of the system to really have an idea of that personally, but I'd be interested in reading a study or wherever that the source of that information is.
I think typically getting out wide and spreading it is good for the shorter quarterbacks, but you still have to be able to pass block. That's
Mhm.
the offensive line right now is not good for any quarterback. That's
Yeah.
the long and the short of it for me. No pun intended. I'm not trying to make a short joke there, but the offensive line wasn't good. And the phrase we've used a zillion times, it's not the X's and O's and Jimmys and Joes, and we're expecting the X's and O's to make the Jimmys and Joes better, marketably better. Because Dalton Reisner wasn't good last year. Lloyd Cushenberry wasn't good last year. The right tackle position wasn't good last year. All of a sudden, they're magically just going to get good because the X's and O's have changed. Maybe they might get better and you might be able to mask them a little better. But for the long haul, because this isn't a 1 year, we're going for it now type of deal. This, should be a window, 5, 6,
years.
7-year window.
Yeah.
Over the long haul, there's got to be some resources put into that offensive line. There has to be.
Yeah. And we'll get into that a little bit. I think there's some reinforcements that should be coming. Rob Bucksbaum, good morning, Nick and Scott. Always the best MHH team. Thanks so much, Rob. Could we release Gordon with a financial hit? 3 fumbles in 3 games is unacceptable. I think you would have somewhat of a financial hit because it's a 1-year deal with high guarantees. But yeah, no, the 3 fumbles are unacceptable. And at this point, maybe you do need to start seeing Mike Boone more because you can't do it in those situations. And probably there's many, that's how football is, especially in these close contests. And everyone drink, but like watching the Iowa Hawkeyes for a year, it's always like 1 or 2 plays that make the difference of the game that go somewhat unheralded. But in this one, it's Russell Wilson diving on that ball near the goal line after Melvin Gordon coughs it up. Just total difference maker in the game. Seems like a small play looking back, but in the moment, but looking back, man, all the difference in the world. So yeah, the fumbles are unacceptable. It's way too many. Got to be better than that. He's still a talented runner, but when you're playing with the margins as small as they are right now because the offense is struggling, you can't have it. The guy who makes a mistake doesn't see the field.
2.2 million guaranteed, so prorated. What were we 3 out of 17? Call that 1 out of 5, so 20% gone. 1.5, $1.6 million cap hit. It's chump change. Yeah. I mean, it sounds silly to say, but that's not it. But what's a little frightening, Rob, is even after the multiple fumbles in this game, he was getting thrown out there in the fourth quarter in crucial situations. And now he did reward the team with their faith by scoring that touchdown, but that was as much Garrett Bowles and that offensive line. Run left, Nick. Didn't we say run left? Why are you running right? Garrett Bowles just buried his guy twice on first and goal and then second goal on the touchdown. I mean, I'm talking over the top of the pile and took out some frustrations on him. I just mentioned earlier, he may have been a little frustrated. The ball wasn't out. And now he's getting credited with sacks. He took it out on those first and goal plays. He was nasty on those 2.
Yeah, great to see. We'll get into the offensive line. I definitely have some takes on this as well. Lord Deer says, do you guys think some of Russ's struggles are because he's played 2 teams that know him best up from here? Maybe that's part of it. But I think the 49ers are just a good D in general. They were missing one of their best players too, which is a little bit unfortunate. Eric Armstead did not play. So that's one that the Broncos probably would have looked even
got a sack.
He did, but he's still not Eric Armstead with the, Spider-Man, Slenderman arms out there. But
you should have seen him play offensive tackle. Oh,
yeah.
We had him the number 1 prospect in the country if he was going to be offensive tackle.
Yeah.
He was something else. But, he's made a good living. He's been I think he even made it a Pro Bowl as a defensive player.
Yep.
But he could have been an all-timer at left tackle. Man, I mean, all-timer. Tony Baselli type, Jonathan Ogden type, Orlando Pace type at left tackle.
Yeah. Well, that's he's making his money, I guess. Not the worst.
No, yeah. I mean, he's probably he'll put 8 figures in the bank and doing what he does to love. And you've got to love it to play at that level. You can't just go out and not like it. You won't make it. It's too hard.
Yeah, exactly. Diamond Rattler saying, let's go. Good to see a Greg Smith in the house too with the pancakes and coffee. And we got a big one here from Wyatt coming in. Let me sit up here so you can still see my beautiful morning face. Saying, good morning, gents. Loving what the defense is doing. Might be my bias, but man, did the Outlaw take the defense to the next level. He was everywhere out there. Offense still a work in progress. Almost looks like they are trying to mend two different mindsets and play different styles. Russ is looking lost and timid out there half the time. Bad passes and no momentum, I'm guessing. Want more Pookie also. Thank you so much, Wyatt. And yeah, welcome back, Josie Jewell. I think a lot of people are like, oh man, Josie Jewell's been really underrated. He was great out there. You probably don't think he's underrated if you listen to this podcast because we've talked about him a lot last year. We thought he was one of the best defensive players on the Broncos last year, the first 2 weeks. He was amazing against the Giants. He was amazing the first 2 weeks against the Jags. Is he the world's best defender in space, playing like tail coverage against a wide receiver out the boundary? No. Point to me the linebackers that you're okay in that situation, though. It's like, I thought of this analogy yesterday. It's like in a basketball game when your center, because of rotations of defense, gets matched up against an elite ball handling point guard. He's not supposed to be there. It happens, and if the point guard gets by him, guess what? It's going to happen sometimes. You tip your cap to the other team for getting that player in that situation to get that matchup. But for what Josie Jewell does in the box, the run defense, funneling it to him, being in the right place, making the tackles that he's supposed to make, and also the positive effect on the players he has around him. I mean, Jonas Griffith, welcome to this season. Nice to see you. I thought that was huge. So yeah, Jewell is definitely a big bonus for this defense, and really happy to have him back. And I think if Jewell is healthy, that Week 1 game, the Broncos beat the Seahawks.
Yeah, that was a wheel route, and Debo was lined up in the backfield. He was a running back in that play, and Jewell knows he can't let him come free on that. At the very least, just reach out and frickin' grab him and take your 5-yard penalty. Because you're dead meat. It's a matchup you can't deal. Best case, you've got to square him up and jam him before he gets 5 yards. Worst case, grab his ass and take your 5. It's better. It's a good professional foul. But that was a good matchup, and it's not the last time that Deebo Samuel is going to put somebody in an uncomfortable situation. But for all the bad, what impresses me is Jewell. His lateral mobility is good. He goes sideline to sideline really well, much better than I was anticipating. Based on the early scouting reports from Broncos country. Yeah, he's kind of a plugger, steady guy. He's better than that. He really is.
He really is. We got great instincts too. I mean, the thing coming out of the combine, I think he was like 96th percentile in the 3-cone and had a crazy high 20-yard shuttle too. His agility is great.
There's your inside linebacker. Yep.
Yeah.
There's your inside linebacker. If you're a 4.8, you're fine. If you're running a 4 shuttle in a 7 flat 3-cone, I don't care about the 40 anymore because he's not coming out of a 3-point stance anyway. He's got to change directions in a hurry.
Yeah. My biggest issue with Jewell coming out was his lack of size and length for the position. He comes downhill, but he can get enveloped a bit. And I think on that big Jeff Wilson run, we did see him get enveloped, and then Kareem Jackson missed the tackle coming downhill and then off to the races for the biggest run there. And that I think might have even been the first drive for the 49ers.
It was the second drive, but that was it then. Then it was kind of, because the way the game started is like, oh God, they're in trouble. 3 and out, touchdown, 3 and out, driving. Oh, stopped him. Okay, that was it. You guys were done.
Yep. Defense, really good adjustments and not giving up there. Hopefully the offense can get them a lead this week. We got Michael Ronquillo coming in saying, good morning, Nick and Scott on Broncos for breakfast. Let's ride. Good to see you. We also got Andrew Lampy coming in saying, morning. Still love the show. Well, that's good to hear. I'm over the Gordon thing. Tried to hold my breath every time he touches the ball.
I like the show. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's because Scott's back. That's why. We didn't see Andrew yesterday. No, we did see Andrew yesterday for sure because I remember the picture of his kid for sure. The Melvin Gordon thing is I've been definitely a starch supporter of him and good for him to get that touchdown. Also, but you got to protect the goddamn ball. I think he comes in sorry to curse on here, but it's unbelievable. That's especially with the margins this small. You cannot win games. You have to win games by winning the turnover battle. Broncos win this one 3-0. They would have had one less. They probably lose this game. So you got to protect the damn ball.
Well, in that second fumble where he on the catch and he fumbles to himself and recovers it, he's down. Luckily, that was wide out in the open, and they gave him a clear recovery because it got punched out again. Yeah. If that's in a scrum, that's a lost fumble for sure. Yeah. So, hell, I give him 3 fumbles for that. That one was 2 in 1 play. Yeah, I'm with you on this. I wanted to give the benefit of the doubt. I did. I'm done. That's I don't want him carrying the ball. 3rd down back in the slot, maybe. however you want to use him on passing plays, because he did do a fantastic job pass blocking. I'll give him that.
Yeah. So
Excuse
did
me,
Mike Boone.
fantastic. The first big play of the game was Russell Wilson out of his own end zone on a crossing route to Sutton. That doesn't happen without Melvin Gordon stoning a blitzer. It was a thing of beauty. But when you're a liability holding the ball, I can't use you. What exactly is you do here? You got to hold on to the ball. That's job one.
Yeah.
Job one. You can't hold on to the ball. Nothing else matters.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. Got Shiloh coming in here. Cute picture of with the dog there. It says, "Morning, fellas."
You'll never go back.
Yeah, it's looks like those ears, man. Morning, fellas. Haven't been able to watch live in a bit. Loving our 5+55 edge duo. Hoping Browning is back healthy too. Sounds like Browning's going to be okay. He came back into the game, but the edge rushers have been awesome so far, man. It's really been great to see. One of the biggest questions coming into this season. Now we have new questions, but that's what's fun about covering these football teams, right? Everything is cyclical. Things change, needs change. So unless it's the Broncos at right tackle. Sal coming in. Good morning. Let's ride. Got Mr. Scary saying, anyone else wish we drafted CD over Jeudy after watching CD make one-handed touchdowns and Jeudy dropping passes every game? I mean, Mr. Scary, if we're going to rewrite history here, you got Justin Jefferson picked, 7 picks later, 8 picks later, who is arguably the best wide receiver in football. So if we're going to redo this, let's redo it right and get Justin Jefferson in here rather than CD or Jeudy. And yeah, you talk about Melvin Gordon being on your poop list. I'm getting a little bit annoyed by Jeudy. I know that some of the catches there were rough for him. He's playing through that injury, but it's just going back and watching the game, some of the effort on the plays that aren't going his way, the blocking on the outside, what you have to get those big runs in this system just doesn't seem there, on top of not attacking the football. You're a first-round pick. Almost every first-round pick at wide receiver over the last few years has been a pretty good hit, but the jury is still out on Jerry Jeudy, and got to get better. Got to be better. Have not seen it yet. Hoping this week's a good matchup for him.
Benjamin Flores beat me to it. It says, the 5 and the 55. That sounds like a Hollywood phone number, 555. Says, need a sack? Just dial 555 sack.
Yeah.
And what's interesting for me, these guys, they remind me of a quintessential pass rusher. Quiet, 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 quiet. Boom! Big play. Game-changing plays. They're making 2 each every game. They're doing their job. You don't hear much, and you might say, man, these guys haven't done anything. I think they've earned that now. 3 games with big plays. You're like, okay, just wait. They're doing a job. They're doing their job. And then they're going to come up with at least 2 game-changing plays each. You get 4 of those a game out of your edge rushers, you're going to win a lot of ball games.
Yeah, absolutely. They've been awesome. They've probably been my favorite part of this team so far this season, other than watching number 2 play cornerback. C. Beeston coming in saying, morning, everyone. We also got JC Bio coming in saying, good morning, Nick and Scott in Broncos country. Good to see you, JC. We also did we get to Lawrence Rivera here? Saying, I just think it was a big shock. It's like wanting a toy on Christmas when you were younger and it didn't work out right. Talking about the Broncos offense not living up to hype so far.
Yeah, the expectations are killers. I always say under promise, over deliver. Because if you build up the hype and the expectations, there's really only nowhere to go but down. And this still isn't what you have expected. Even with low expectations, this isn't what you would have expected. But you're sitting there at 2-1. Okay, you're 2-1, first place in the West, and lots of room for improvement. That's the question, Nick.
Yeah.
Have you seen improvement week to week on the whole?
From the offensive side of the ball, I mean, I don't know. They moved the ball like amazingly versus the Seahawks, and this last week it came to a grinding halt. But they only had 1 3-and-out or 0 3-and-out.
Falcons did to the Seahawks. The Seahawks defense isn't very good.
No,
49ers defense is good.
Yeah, for sure. But I don't know if I could necessarily say I've seen improvement.
Okay, well, I've seen improvement on the operational aspect of things with the penalties and the play calling, getting it in. What I haven't seen improvement, a macro problem that scares the crap out of me for this team, is that offensive line. Okay, the micro improvements that we said that have added up are your efficiency, getting the play in and getting the play off. That was a big improvement for sure. The offensive line was a big step backwards for me, and that is a bit scary. But overall, I can point to special teams improvement. I can talk about pass rush, pass defense, overall in the defense improvement, operational efficiency. I've seen improvement. Cutting down on the penalties, I've seen improvement. So week to week to week, I am seeing this team improve, and you're on the way up, and you're 2-1. So keep it going. You got to keep it going. You're going to face a desperate team this weekend.
Yeah, you definitely are. And the Raiders, laughing stock, but I think the Raiders are favored in Vegas as well. So it will be an interesting game. Kevin Gray in the house, Morning Broncos Country. Scott Nick just got on. Go back and watch the full podcast. So he's got to get out of here. But good to see you, Kevin. Thanks for stopping by. We appreciate you. And let's keep it going here. I want to talk a little bit about this offensive line. Scott, I thought that the offensive line's pass protection definitely could have used work, but I think that Russell Wilson is as much of a culprit of the pass rush issues as the offensive line, because a lot of these plays, he seems to be being greedy in the pocket. And sometimes that leads to big plays. No doubt that Russell Wilson dagger route was a result of him trying to escape, extend, and find that play. Good job by him. But you mentioned that Garrett Bowles one. It was a coverage sack, but that's as much as a Russell Wilson get rid of the damn ball sack. Excuse me.
No.
But yeah, go ahead.
No, and as you said, there's different sacks. There's different levels of sacks. Third and 10, an interception versus a sack. Okay, whatever. It's a punt either way or a turnover either way. Some interceptions are different. An interception at the end of a half when you're throwing it downfield, or 3rd and 18 and you toss it to the 10-yard line and it's intercepted. So what? That's as good as a punt. But he took a couple of them at the 40, knocking yourself out of field goal range, which, I'm listening to it on as I rewatch the game. Collinsworth says, all you can do is just don't take a sack.
Yeah,
it's God. Like you're in the league 10 years, man. But the problem is, if you are stuck in the center right there and everything collapses around you, you can't exactly throw it away either. That unless you know, okay, I've got my guy out here on the out route and I can chuck it 10 yards over his head, it's going to be a grounding penalty anyway. But in that case, I think I'd rather take a grounding penalty, see if you can hit a mascot in the stands.
100%. And for me, the offensive line, I thought the pass protection obviously needs some work. Garrett Bowles had 2 sacks given up in this game, but I think neither were 100% on him.
He only gave up 2. The 2 that I remember were both Russell Wilson was equally to blame for holding the ball too long. Because like I said, I counted. It's a 5-step drop, 2 count, 1-2. That ball has to be out, and he had the 2 count on both of them.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. I got the drop back hitch again. It's that kind of thing. It's like you got to get rid of the ball. I understand you're trying to or escape the pocket if there's room there. But it's definitely an issue going forward. My biggest issue in the offense, so the pass protection, I think it's equally the quarterback as it is the offensive line. But the run blocking has been, especially in the interior offensive line, absolutely freaking dreadful. There was a play in the game versus this last game where it was a trap. You saw Dalton Reisner kind of scoot his butt around Lloyd Cushenberry, and Cushenberry snaps the ball, and then this guy immediately blows past him, and you just see Garrett Bowles look at Cushenberry like this. Like turns around and just like, are you freaking kidding me? And that was a couple times in the game. Also a couple at Glasgow as well, where, there's head scratching, the wide receiver or the running back looking at him like, are you kidding me? The interior trio so far, especially after Quinn Miners has gone out, is getting absolutely zero push. The Broncos running efficiency. I have the data here. They are the 6th worst rushing team in football per EPA per play. And they're not getting it done on the ground despite having good running backs. So what does that say to you? It means that the offensive line is struggling to get their blocks, get the assignments there, and they're just not getting any push. Right tackle, Cam Fleming's been up and down there. He's a better run blocker than pass protector, but the interior offensive line specifically, dreadful in the running game right now, and it's really impacting this offense.
And Wyatt Horning coming, he's talking about the offensive line. He says, on paper, I like the O-line, but this is now 3 years approximately that they have been disappointing. Bowles and Miners are the only ones worth staying. At what point do we just blow it up and start over? I've mentioned this before. If you go to Spot Rack and go to tackles and sort by biggest cap hit, Garrett Bowles comes number 1 in the list.
Yeah.
That will generate a lot of animosity unless he's playing at a top 5 type of level, which he's not. Right now, he's just kind of a guy. He's serviceable. He's a good pro on the left side.
He's above average.
Not the top cap hit for offensive linemen in the entire NFL. Mm-hmm. So it's that's a bit of a problem. That's a problem. So I think at some point you got to start thinking left tackle also, or at least tackle to move that can play right, and we'll move him over to left when we do transition out Bowles. But you can find guys in the third, fourth, and fifth rounds that can be quality starters in the NFL on the interior line. You got to take your shots. Wattenberg could push for one of those spots next year, but you need to draft. We talk about having lots of draft picks. Give me 3 draft picks in the 4th round. I'll find you a starter on the interior line. I mean, it's some of those where the quantity over quality. Sometimes quantity matters because the quality, the margins are so thin at those positions that you want to have multiple quivers in the arrow, to use one of your phrases. You want to have multiple shots at guys like that. So got to get some bodies in there, I think, in the draft, Nick.
Yeah, and we saw the Broncos do that the last 2 drafts as well. Took 2 safeties in the 2021 draft. Jamar Johnson out of the league, but Caden Stearns looks like a very good player. You saw it in the last draft as well. Matt Henningsen and Owuzurike on the in the interior defensive line, and then 2 defensive backs in the end with a Delarian Turner-Yell and Faion Hicks. So that's definitely a strategy that Broncos follow here. I think that you hope that Miners comes back soon. The Broncos offensive line was moving some earth when he was out there. They definitely need him. But I'm also hoping that I'm still holding out hope for Billy Turner just because he is a vet. It's not like a complete unknown making the transition from Pac-12 football at tight end to the NFL, where it's might as well be a different game for Greg Dulcich. So Turner coming back hopefully will help the offensive line some. Then also Forgotten Man should be coming off the pup here next week. I know it's a back injury, but Tom Compton is a tackle/guard. And last season, he was like the 3rd or 4th highest rated run blocking guard in football, according to Pro Football or tackle.
I thought you were going to say tackle. I was like, you know what a run blocking tackle sounds like to me?
A guard.
A guard.
Yeah. No, but
absolutely
Compton
sounds like a guard. Yeah. There were some questions in here about Miners. I would think Miners is basically day to day at this point because he was in full uniform, but he didn't play, wasn't quite ready. So Miners has to be getting close. But I swear it feels like we've been hearing Billy Turner's a full go at practice since the first week of August, where he's getting close. And going back to Garrett Bowles a little bit, I think, who was it? Lance comes and he says, rework Bowles' contract this year. It's not quite as bad. His cap hit actually goes down next year. It goes down to $18 million next year with a dead cap of 8. So 18 for a top 10 offensive tackle isn't unreasonable if he's still playing at that level, but he's starting to get a little older. And your dead cap to cap hit has now flipped. You're no longer upside down on that. And it'd be a $10 million cap savings if you were to do something with Garrett Bowles. That's when Garrett Bowles becomes movable. He wasn't movable this year. And there wasn't. You weren't going to move him this year. But you start asking the questions 2023.
Yeah, 100%. And I also think that part of the reason his contract looks like this is because, and we always knew this when he signed the contract, and I guess this was before you joined us over here, Scott, but the first 2 years were exceedingly small cap hits for the tackle position. And we knew that later on, just the way the contract was set up, the back half of it was going to balloon, but the Broncos are going to be able to move money around to offset that. So the reason it looks big right now is because
year
he was like
3 where it's really upside down.
Yeah.
As far as, a high hit and even a higher dead cap. Next year it becomes manageable. But again, none of that matters if he's not playing well. We talk about the cap being a myth. It's not if you're playing well. It's not a myth if you guys are old and on the decline. Then the cap becomes real. It's like, well, we got to move on from this guy. Well, you can't. He's got a $30 million dead cap hit. You can't move on from him. That's when it becomes real. When it's not real is younger players where you can move money to the back and give them long years on the contract and extend it with cash. Eventually that comes due. But I think Bowles' contract is actually set up really well, honestly. Most of the contracts that the Broncos have are good. They're team friendly, so to speak, deals. They're not upside down on a lot of them, giving them a lot of flexibility. And Bowles is one of those, despite his big cap hit this year.
Yeah, 100%. Scott, I'm going to have to switch my batteries on my headphones here real quick. So I'll let you look at the comment section and take the next one while I fix these. I got batteries right here.
Going back to, starting to get the bodies into the offensive line. If we start getting Tom Compton, a possible guard, you start getting Miners in. Does Tom Compton come in and push Dalton Reisner? He needs to. My question on there becomes center. I don't think it'll ever happen, but one of the combinations I really liked was Glasgow was better at center than I've seen him at guard during the preseason. Now, what is preseason worth? I don't know. Not much, according to Nathaniel Hackett. But I did like seeing Glasgow at center and Wattenberg at guard. I thought that was a good combination for depth. But somehow, Nick, Cushenberry's become untouchable on this offensive line. And that's a problem because he's getting bullied in there.
Yeah, I know that, was it last week or something? I feel like we were talking about Cushenberry struggles, and people kind of came at us. I don't know if it was a inside the building PR campaign or whatnot, but I knew going into the draft, the Broncos had eyes set on a lot of centers position they were looking to upgrade, maybe even trade up for from that second round pick for a guy named Cam Jurgens, if you recall him, but didn't happen. And then as soon as the draft was over, oh, we always loved Lloyd Cushenberry. He was always the best. Here's all this stuff on him. And I think part of it also is Russell Wilson preferred Cushenberry to Glasgow as a center option due to height. So you're getting a little bit more push there as well. But
there's lots of 6'3" center options around this league.
Yeah, there are. So it needs to get better out there, no doubt. But yeah, Cushenberry struggled. Cushenberry has been the worst player on the offensive line so far this season. Next, it would be Glasgow. Then probably it would be a tie between Fleming and Reisner. Reisner is really solid in pass protection still. I mean, he's solid at getting his hands on there and getting in the way, more or less, at least from what I've seen. He does get pushed back sometimes, but it's not getting blown past and totally inept in the run game like Glasgow has been. And then Cushenberry struggling in all facets of the game. So it's not great right now. Hopefully Miners coming in will help that offensive line a bit. And also you still got Compton and Turner, who should be coming back at some point this season. You hope that should give the Broncos some options as well. The offensive line isn't totally dreadful, but like I've said, it's the run blocking right now. They're sixth worst EPA per play, one of the lowest run success rates so far this season. And because of that, I think it was talking to somebody on here had a comment. I don't want to skip Gary Leeds Palmer, but it's talking about the Broncos offense pass game or running to set up the play action. I want to run to set up more third and shorts. You want to have more better options in the pass game. How many times last week were the Broncos 3rd and 10 plus? It felt like pretty damn consistently. And if you are in those situations rather than 3rd and 3 or shorter, you're going to have a hard time moving the football. And also the explosive plays as well. You're looking to get those 10 yards versus, is it 10 yards or is this a good time to take a shot play? 2nd and 2. Oh, here's a throwaway play where we can take a shot down the field and maybe get an explosive. So right now the Broncos are just, their running game has been not good enough, but specifically because of the blocking up front on the interior trio has been dreadful. Some of the worst I've seen in football this season.
Yeah, again, I think the downhill helps. And then it also seems like they start stacking up on it. It's like they go back to back with success and they go to back, and then the third one ends up being a big negative play. We've used the term overcorrection a few times on this. One of the questions earlier is what happened to the screenplays? Well, the screenplays in the first game were when it took you 25 minutes to target a wide receiver. Game 2, the first 15 passes were to wide receivers and you weren't targeting the running backs at all. So there's some learning and there's some balance that goes on. And GLP says, do you think the relationship between Russ and Melvin is why Melvin is still here? Not accusing, but wondering. Maybe why he came back. I'm sure Melvin Gordon had some options where he could have played for $2.5 million in some other places, but I just soon come back to the Broncos for $2.5 million. But is he going to get cut? He's not going to get cut. You get the feeling that Nathaniel Hackett really likes him. That's why he's still in there in crunch time after putting the ball on the turf twice in the second half. So, his ability to pass block, his being a receiver out of the backfield and his nose for the goal line seems to be trumping the questions that they have about him putting the ball on the turf, which right now is the bigger question for all of us. Actually, it's not even a question anymore. We've got the answer. He puts the ball on the turf.
Yeah. It's been a struggle there. And real quick, Diamond Rattler had a comment about no way that Bowles reworks his contract. You mentioned it, Scott. Only, $8 million guaranteed money next year on his contract for 2023. That seems like a contract that is, if the Broncos are happy with his play there at left tackle, prime for a reworking of it, because you could massively increase the guarantees on the back end to lower his cap hit.
Yeah, and when did he sign? He says he signed 4 years, $68 million, but just got it, in a 4-year deal. He's more than halfway through it already, and you can re-sign a guy. I mean, going back to that thought, Albert, Sutton and Patrick reworked their contracts before they'd even played it down on it. You can rework the contracts at any given time, but rework doesn't necessarily mean pay cut. It can you can take that money that he's owed and turn into a bonus. I'm going to give you the $8 million guaranteed now, and you're actually going to get the same amount of money plus a big signing bonus. So you can rework some things, but again, an $18 million cap hit, you can do some things with that, but he's 31, 32. What you don't want to see happen is you rework the contract, and then at 33 years old, he's got a $30 million dead cap hit. Right now, that dead cap number is going in the right direction. It goes from 29 this year to 8 in 2023 to 4 in 2024. That gives you options. Every time you rework a contract, that dead cap number goes up. And that limits your options. And if you're a general manager, you always want to have options.
Yeah, 100%. Jasmine coming in with $9.99 super chat. Thank you so much, Jasmine. Good morning to you. Happy Tuesday. She says, morning, we have a receiver issue. Yes, we do. Tim Patrick's injury is hurting more than I thought. Sutton looks great, and you can see Russ depends on him. Jerry has to get on the same page as Russ. I think Jeudy, honestly, I need to maybe back down on the Jeudy stuff. I'm just so disappointed in him so far this season. He had the really big play against Seattle, and that was amazing. But just then after the game, tweeting about Shannon Sharp eating his rear end. Did you see this deleted tweet that Russell had?
No.
Okay, it's just one more thing where I know
Jeudy had.
Yeah, Jeudy had right after the game. Then he deleted it and whatnot, and it's just continuing last year's pattern. And I know the front office was pretty irritated and annoyed by him last year, spouting off on Twitter and deleting tweets and whatnot. And then you have that, so going to be an issue. Got to watch out.
If you're putting up 1,500 yards, the press will call you colorful. Until that, you're just mouthy.
Yep. It's unfortunate, but definitely hoping that he gets on the same page there with Russ. And I think when he's healthy still, he's a really good outlet receiver for the Broncos because he does get open, and he's playing through that injury. Hopefully he'll be even better this week. So you need Jeudy to step up. I think that's the biggest thing too. I talk about all the players right now on this Broncos team that where they are at and what their level is playing to where they could be and need to be. Jeudy might have that, I guess, besides Russell Wilson. Jeudy might have
another one.
A player
big long pause. He plays tight end. He's big and he's fast. I put Albert Okwuegbunam in that group.
5th round pick, though. I mean, he's not a 1st round pick.
But we're talking about what he could be because Jeudy is still productive right now. Right now, Albert Okwuegbunam is a 0.
Mm-hmm.
He's contributing nothing.
Well, he's not very good.
You're expecting him to be upper half tight end. Judy's not. Again, you're right. Jeudy could step up and bring it to 3 or 4 new levels. But Okwuegbunam, I think, has got to be one of the bigger disappointments for this offense as well.
Yeah. I never really was a big proponent. I mean, took him in the 5th round. I thought that was a good use of resources for the tools, but never really thought he was a big guy based on what I heard about some of the mentality stuff with him. But we'll find out, and we got to get to this before we get on out of here. To been harping on the offensive line. I think your biggest takeaway is the offensive line in general. Mine has been the lack of wide receivers, not named pass catchers, not named Cortland Sutton stepping up in combination with the interior offensive line running lanes have been terrible. Got to be better out there. But let's flip it here now. Broncos defense has been incredible through 3 weeks of the season. Now, I don't think we should crown their ass, in the words of the late Dennis Green. But the Broncos defense has looked good and getting after the quarterback. The edge rushers have been great. The run defense, Josie Jewell back. And this has been without Cortland Sutton, without Justin Simmons the last 2 games. Patrick Surtain playing on a bum shoulder. So, Scott, we've been harping on the offense in this one. Let's make it a little bit more positive here. What were your thoughts on that Broncos defense out there, rocking the all navies and just beating the absolute hell out of the 49ers after the first couple of drives?
It was phenomenal. And, one of the unsung heroes of this game, I think, was Mike Purcell coming in. Yes. Whenever I saw him in the game.
Last night, we were harping Mike Purcell. So, go ahead.
Yeah. Whenever he was in the game, he was getting a good push against that offensive line. Trent Williams goes down in the second half. That doesn't help them, but what's your excuse in the middle? I did see Spencer Burford out there. Has he been a starter for them this season? Because I liked him, but that's early. I liked him as a project possibly. He was a Senior Bowl guy that we talked about a lot during the mock drafts and everything.
UTSA.
But, Mike Purcell was getting a great push up the middle. Him and DJ Jones are going to be hell in the middle as a combination. It's like, okay, good. DJ Jones is out. Oh, God, who's this monster in front of me now? Playing really well. Draymond played really well. We already talked up Josie Jewell a little bit. And then last night, we mentioned another guy, nickel corner K'Wan Williams. Just big number 21 out there. And Zach was talking about him for pass coverage. I had him in my notes for his run support.
Yeah.
His ability to seal an edge. When he was walking up in the slot sometimes on a weak side, he was an edge rusher. Not an edge rusher, but an outside linebacker almost. and did a great job sealing the edge and forcing things back inside. And for a 190-pound defensive back going against those big eaters, that's a mentality. That's a mentality you need, and good for him. I was thrilled with his play.
Yeah, no, 21 out there, revenge game, obviously, for the 49ers defense. Had a great game. Talked about him yesterday. Talked about, of course, Mike Purcell as well. That might have been the best game Mike Purcell has had in 2-3 years out there. And with DJ Jones in concussion protocol right now, the only real serious injury coming out of that week 3 game versus the 49ers, Mike Purcell might be a big part of this defense going forward. I definitely was somebody who thought, given how he played last year, his age, his contract, you could probably find a better nose tackle out there. I would be happy to eat crow on that one. So hope that gets better there. But we have an article here from Bob Morris over on Mile Huddle. Make sure you check it out. The 4 reasons that the Broncos defense is for real. Number 1 reason, he says, defensive coordinator Ejiro Evero is keeping opponents on their toes. A lot of Russell Wilson Broncos offense slander right now. I think we need to do a better job. And I guess we're part of it because we spent 45 minutes talking about the offense here, but the defense has been incredible. Ejiro Evero, is there a chance that he is a one-and-done coach this season? I know that defensive coaches are not in vogue. Everybody wants the offensive guy, but a minority defensive coordinator who's absolutely killing it right now, he 100% has to have interviews this year.
A young black man dude that is being incredibly successful.
He should be.
That presents himself the way he does. Abso-freaking-lutely, he's going to be on a lot of high lists this year, without a doubt.
Yeah, has to be. He's well-deserved, well-spoken, extremely intelligent. He's playing. It's a lot of the same concepts in the back end coverage-wise that Fangio did, but I think he's being a little bit more aggressive with his defensive pressure looks, which is fun now. Part of that is because he has more pass rush weapons than what Fangio had last season, especially. But like lining up Gregory on the outside, Chubb at like a 5 technique, and then you have Draymond Jones setting the 5 technique on the other side, and you can kind of do a lot of different fun things there. Josie Jewell being sent on blitzes. We talk about Josie Jewell and, sideline to sideline. I think on the 3 plays where Josie Jewell blitzed, he had 2 pressures and a sack. So he was really good as well. Been enjoying how they're using different ways to get pressure up front. A lot of simulated pressures, if you guys recall me talking about that a lot this season. Lawrence Rivera also coming in saying, I appreciate you guys keeping me positive. You're going great, guys. Thank you so much, Lawrence. We appreciate you. I'm not sure what the emoji is there.
It looks like a screwdriver.
Yep, that's definitely.
Screw it, I think.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thanks for being, we're trying to keep it real. Like I said, we're not sunshine pumpers, is an old message board phrase. Especially me, I'm pretty negative about things, but in this crowd, I'm going to try and look for positives while also pointing out the stuff that is scary. Where could this stuff go wrong?
Yep.
Offensive line.
Yeah. Yeah, and
thanks, quarterback. Big time
we'll stars. Bob Morris also coming in saying another reason we just talked about it, the pass rush is much improved. Gosh, it's so much improved. Randy Gregory and Bradley Chubb, the best pass rush duo in the AFC West. Who'd have thought that coming into this season? Max Crosby has struggled. Chandler Jones has been terrible. Joey Bosa just got a serious injury on his groin, and Khalil Mack's been great. But right now, I would take Bradley Chubb and Randy Gregory over all of them, which is incredible. That's absolutely incredible. So we also got number 3 here. Secondary is thriving without Justin Simmons. They have been thriving so far, and I see a comment coming in here from Jerry Lawyer coming in saying, is Simmons being missed enough to justify his contract? Pat Surtain and Caden Stearns can settle the defense for a much lower cost. We have not played a dynamic passing offense yet this season, even close to that. And I think that if you were missing, if you were going up against a Buffalo Bills-esque pass attack, you'd want Justin Simmons out there still. So I think you are missing Justin Simmons. It just hasn't really shown itself yet because you're playing Geno Smith, Davis Mills, and Jimmy Garoppolo, which has not been a murderer's row of passing attacks.
Yeah, and money's not the issue. You're needing him out there. When you start running into problems like, listen, we can't upgrade this position because we don't have money because of this, then you start asking those questions. But Justin Simmons is a team leader. He is a plus player in this league. He's worth the money right now. He's earning his contract. That's basically how you say you can judge any contract, not just by the dollars and cents, but is he worth it? And what would it cost to replace him? So right now, yeah, his contract is just fine.
Yeah. It's a big one, and we'll be happy to have him back here in a few weeks. Luckily for Denver, it seems like the AFC West is not as formidable as it was a bit ago. Chargers are dealing with, who'd have saw this coming? The Chargers are dealing with an unbelievable onslaught of injuries. I mean, I swear to God, they must have built a stadium on an Indian burial ground or Native American burial ground or something, because
I
it's
used that
unbelievable.
term the other day. I'm like, wait, no, that was poltergeist. Sorry.
Yeah, poltergeist. Yep, 100%. It's absolutely crazy to see what they are doing as far as injuries go. And the Raiders, 0-3. Who could have seen that coming? Hopefully they'll be 0-4 after this week, but we'll see. And K-Hop coming in saying Raiders offensive line is going to give up 6 sacks, especially on the right side. Yeah, they are not very good right now, and their defense is bad. You want to talk about a get-right game for the Broncos offense? I think that this is not going to be I bet you the tickets actually for this game are not hard to come by for a Raiders game, given that they're already 0-3 looking in despair. Going to be hard to get because Bronco fans are going to be buying them up. So I'm going to see a lot of orange in that stadium.
There you go. It's that one that makes it that sometimes even harder to get is when you're like, okay, we want to go see a win, and then the people coming in are spending even more money on that. Look at Ethan coming in orange, where it's almost London time. Man, I can't wait. It feels like, I don't know, for some reason it feels like it's already October to me. Maybe because it was 48 degrees in Georgia this morning. But it feels like October already, and that means the end of the month. Coming to London, baby. London, baby.
God, that's going to be a great game. How about those Jags?
Break up the Jaguars, man. Break them up. They're out of control.
Dude, our guys, my number one linebacker, Devin Lloyd, has been absolutely incredible for them and looked like the best linebacker and rookie linebacker in this class. And then Travon Walker, it's going to be Aiden Hutchinson or him for the defensive rookie of the year. But Travon Walker, I don't know if you've seen any of the advanced stats, but his run defense is, I think, already the best in the NFL for his position, because he's playing a gap and a half out there on the edge, and he's given like the smallest yards per carry on his side of any player in football right now through 3 weeks.
Who could you compare him to in the last 10 years? Like a prime JJ Watt, maybe? To be able to do both like that with his size and strength, and then and the agility out there
too. I mean, he was making plays in coverage too, so he's even more athletic than JJ Watt in space now. He's lighter and smaller than JJ Watt too. JJ Watt was pushing 3
so
bills.
I'm just using the run defense because we know that playing both sides, JJ Watt got to the pass rusher and could play defense from that end position. And Travon Walker is doing those things. He's doing them a little bit differently.
Yeah. So we were on that.
You mentioned Lloyd. Sorry to get off topic here. Are they using him on the outside at all, or are they using him inside? Because that was one of the things that I liked about him is a lot of his plays when we watched him in college, a lot of his highlight plays were when he was on the edge and he was rushing the passer. So I'm curious if they're using him a little bit like Micah Parsons. While you're looking that up, I want to hit one more thing. There's still some Jerry Jeudy talk coming in here. Now, going in next year, you got to make a decision on whether you want to pick up his 5th-year option or not. It would be roughly $15 million. I think you're shopping him, Nick, next year going in. You might pick up his option and still shop him, but that's a big gamble. A $15 million gamble is a big gamble for what he's given you at this point. But, do you want to just let him walk after year 4 if you don't pick it up? Maybe you do.
Yeah, it's definitely something you have to look at, but you just need pass catchers right now too. So we'll see how it plays out. Doesn't seem like Devin Lloyd's been used much as a edge rusher so far. Only 3 snaps, according to Pro Football Focus's snap alignment by position. Only 3 snaps in the defensive line. That includes left outside linebacker and right outside linebacker. Almost all of them coming from the box. However, so far this season has, where are we at? A total of 18 snaps in the slot as well. So some coverage in space there for Devin Lloyd. But yeah, Travon Walker's been amazing. We got some more supers coming in here. We have Jasmine again. Gosh, thank you, Jasmine. $9.99 saying quarterbacks can go into a new system and can take half a season to a year to get comfortable and get cranking. Do you think Russ needs a full season to get used to this new system? I don't know if he needs a new full season, but right now we talked about it this offseason, at least I did a good bit, in order to smooth the transition for Russell Wilson, this pass offense. And this was before Tim Patrick was injured and KJ Hamler not back and Jeudy also dealing with injury now. You needed the run game on the offensive line specifically to step up to be able to make it so the pass game didn't have to get everything done. And you needed the defense to step up. Those were the two, obviously, Nick. Oh, yeah, if everything around the quarterback's easy, then it's going to be easier for the quarterback. But right now, the defense has stepped up. Run game has been so far from what I had hoped, given the talent you have at the running back position, that is my biggest takeaway right now, outside of the questions surrounding the passing game and Russell Wilson.
So, Jasmine, this isn't directed at you. This is just a rebuttal to the Tom Brady and Tampa Bay Buccaneers thing that I've seen a zillion times, and it's been spoken so much that it's become fact, and it's not fact. Tampa Bay did not get off to a slow start. It did not take them half the season to get going. They were 6-2. They were 6-2 in Tom Brady's first year, and Tom Brady was lighting up scoreboards. What happened was they hit a patch where they lost 3 or 4 games in the middle of the season. And since most people really only start paying attention as you're getting close to playoff time, when they went from 6-2 to like 7-5, losing 3 or 4 games, and I'm looking at it here, it was to the Saints, it was to the Rams, it was to the Chiefs. Those are good teams. So they hit a stumbling block in the middle of the season as they entered their stretch. And when they came out of that, they were stronger. And then they didn't lose again. So they didn't get off to a slow start. They started clicking right away. And again, we've said this about Peyton Manning before. Russell Wilson's not Peyton Manning. Russell Wilson's not Tom Brady. Very different type of quarterbacks. Can it take longer for this system to click? Everything's new. And I think someone mentioned it before, and I kind of agree with it. There's also a little bit of a power dynamic here. I think Jeremy Shawn said it feels like Russ and Hackett are on an awkward first date. They're getting to know each other, who steps up when, that type of thing as well. So, yes, it's not going to get worse. I promise you that on offense. It won't get worse. So it can only get better. How much better, we'll wait and see.
Yeah, 100%. And the final point here from Bob Morris on the 4 reasons the Broncos defense is for real. He said that the linebackers are a stable presence. Josie Jewell being back out there made a big difference. It made the job look easier for Jonas Griffith, who looked like he was thinking less and out there, just reacting, using that athleticism and length there with Josie doing a lot of the setup, setting up the table for him. And also, we talked about this in yesterday's show, but wanted to give a shout out to Alex Singleton being the guy who we had hoped he would be special teams ace. He comes in and plays the game when you absolutely need him there because of injuries, but he had 2 or 3 massive tackles on the return teams. I was harping on the punt game last week because they were dreadful against Houston and not really setting up the defense in the best situation because I think only one punt ended up in the 20 or less yards, or 19 or less yards situation. Broncos had multiple in this game because of the punt coverage and the puntman. So the punter. So incredible job with that. Want to shout out Alex Singleton too.
One more shout out on that note was also Mike Boone.
Yes.
What he does is like, he wasn't making tackles. What he was doing was whipping his man at a gunner and forcing fair catches deep and so there was no return, which is as good as a tackle, maybe even better at that point. So not every time, a lot of times when you saw fair catches or, bailing out on the ball, Mike Boone had already whipped his guy blocking as a gunner and he was already down there. Yeah. That's something that doesn't show up in the box score. And it was a very, very good job. And PJ Locke, I saw him doing a lot of the same thing. I felt like he was down there on punt coverage as well. So it was a incredible special teams effort on kick and punt return. Real shout out early morning to Patrick Wiltsey. Thank you, sir. Just finished my Lion Coffee brew this morning. So thank you. Says good morning. Scott, Nick, and Zach. Patrick was here yesterday. So I mentioned Zach listens to our pods in the morning, which is kind of cool. And he says, hey, I want some of that coffee. That mug was dope. I'm like, let me get you guys in touch with each other because Patrick at lioncoffee.com hooks us up, and we certainly appreciate it.
Yeah, 100%. Well, guys, we're at an hour and 3 minutes, and we're technically supposed to go 45 minutes, but it's good to have Scott back, and I had a lot to talk about in today's episode. Really, we are, 20% through the season already, or 15%?
So we're 3 out of 17. That's, almost 1 out of 6, a little more than 1 out of 6. So yeah, call it 20%.
Yep.
Time flies.
Time flies. Broncos tied for first place in the division. A lot to work on still, but the best is yet to come. Broncos got a lot of easier defenses coming up, and I think things are going to get better here as the offensive line specifically gets a little more healthy and gels, and the offensive system meshes a little better. But right now, shout out to that Denver defense and special teams this week. 2-1, much better than other alternatives out there. So make sure you guys are following Scott and I on Twitter. Scott is at Scout Kennedy.
And I am at Scout Kennedy. And while Nick is hitting the wrong button as he's trying to click some banners, just want to make sure everybody says, follow the mothership account, follow us and that's at Nick Kendell. If you want to finish, don't hit the remove yourself, Nick.
I didn't.
Leave Zoom. So now that you've gotten us all backwards, and that doesn't make any sense to those of y'all listening on the pod, so we apologize for listening afterwards. But Nick, go ahead and finish what you were saying, my friend.
I didn't click anything. It said an error occurred, but here I am. All right, finishing us out here. Make sure you're following Scott on Twitter. Scott is at Scout Kennedy. I am at Kendell MHH. Nick's finished like a Raider. That was an Irish goodbye on that one. God, what's going on there? That's caught me off guard. Also follow us at BFB_pod and of course at Mile High Huddle. If you haven't done so yet, just join us on Facebook, facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. If you haven't done so yet, make sure, or you listen to this after the fact, or you have an Apple's iTunes account or wherever you listen to podcasts, find the Huddle Up Show on there. Scroll down, leave us a 5-star rating and review. There are so many great Broncos content creators out there, different types of shows like that. But we like to think we do things a little bit better and a little different than anybody else. And that's because of you guys, the community. So make sure you head over there, support us, and takes, a couple minutes to get that done. So we'd really appreciate that. And also subscribe, like, and share over on YouTube. Click that bell notification so that way you know when we go live. We appreciate you. Welcome back, Scott. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. We will see you again. I'll see you again tonight on Building the Broncos with Carl. And we'll see you over tomorrow morning to talk a little Falcons with Scott. Scott, people missed us yesterday for the Falcons show.
I know. I actually had some people, reach out and say, hey, was there no show today? No, there wasn't. I was coming back from Broncos country, had a blast there. It was just such a fantastic experience. I can't wait to go back. Denver's one of my favorite cities in the country. Love the mountains, love the crisp air, love the people. It was a great time. Had a blast.
Awesome, man. So Nick did the Billy Turner. Yep. I'm back though. I came back, finished it out, but make sure you guys have a good one. Make sure you're choosing kindness and compassion. As always, go Broncos.